It's like being on a bus and then you drive by something really cool and you're like, wait, stop. And it just keeps going. So then you're waiting to get back on the bus to go back. That's kind
Yeah,
of what happens
yeah,
while you're
yeah.
eating your cheeseburger.
Yeah, or it's like a great burger place, and the first one you have is pretty good, but they have a crazy menu, and you want to try all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It was a sampler platter. That's what it was.
Yeah. It's the first
It's
meal
this.
you had at a restaurant that you'll be coming back to for the rest of your life.
Hey, El Toddo.
What's going on?
We got a podcast, The Buff and the Blazer. If I was a listener, where would I go to find more?
You can check us out on our website, thebuffandtheblazer.com. Drew over there writes a article that goes along with every single episode.
You can find all kinds of little extras on the articles, and you can listen to the podcast right there. Also, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we're on Twitter at Buff and Blazer. Follow us there.
Get those clicks, people.
The Buff and the Blazer.
Welcome to the Buff and the Blazer, episode 30. Surprise! It's a two-for weekend.
Twofer.
I'm Drew, and I'm here as always with Mr. El Toddo.
What's going on?
And yeah, this is one we wanted to get out there pretty quickly. We're going to be talking about The Old Guard, and it just dropped this Friday on Netflix. And I saw this film 2 days ago, yesterday. And you saw this today.
This morning. I watched it this morning.
And what did you think?
So, I did like it. I liked kind of how it lays out. It's like setting the groundwork for a whole series of films,
Yeah.
and I like that about it because the story itself is really intriguing to me, being a history fan, and where they can take all of these pretty cool characters that are in the movie.
Right.
And as an action movie, just on its face, it was good, and the action was good, but I think it leaned a little too heavy on the gun action for me. I would have liked to see a little more hand-to-hand action, and some of the major fight scenes fell a little flat for me.
Okay. No, that's fair. I should have mentioned, too, in the beginning, this film is directed by Gina Prince Bythewood, and it's based off the graphic novel series written by Greg Rucka. And so, like you said, this is almost, the way they set it up, it's very much so like a first installment of a larger universe. I don't know if they plan on doing a trilogy or just a bunch of films.
Yeah, you could spin it off a bunch of different directions.
Yeah, a bunch of different directions. I think overall, the film was fine for me. It wasn't like the best action film I've ever seen or anything.
Yeah.
But having said that, the fact that Gina Prince Bythewood got into this genre as far as a feature film, because I think she's done a few episodes of TV that involve some action, but in terms of this being her first feature film in the action genre, to my knowledge, I thought she did a great job, considering that her very first, like, well-known, I'd say, film was Love and Basketball, which was really good. She's good at writing character, and I think some of the best parts of this film are the characters and kind of their dynamic as a group. That's some of the most enjoyable parts of the film for me. And I think, like you, I'm not the biggest fan of like modern day set action, like covert ops, gun shooting, stuff that takes place in the modern era with technology.
Sometimes it's good. Like Extraction, it was really good.
Yeah, Extraction was good, but it's like anytime you have those like SEAL team type movies with the like special ops,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, it's not my cup of tea, but there's so much rich history with what's going on with backstory in
Yeah.
this film. And I would love to see either like another standalone film that involves more of the historical era, or spin-off shows or what have you. There's so many possibilities.
Yeah.
With different ways they could take it. And anytime they would flash back in time, that's where like my ears perked up. I was really interested to see what was going on, and I felt like they purposefully held back on that.
Yeah, it's almost
just because they're like, we're trying to build something for you guys, and we don't want to spoil it all in this movie.
Yeah, it's like the characters themselves and all of their backstory is super duper interesting,
Yeah.
and I would say more interesting than the current arc, the present day arc that this movie portrays.
Yeah.
And yeah, like the whole time I was thinking like, oh man, I can't wait till if they do a origin story for any one of these
Yeah.
old guard people, or like just go back in time before all the other dudes and lay out the backstory of Andy even deeper.
Yeah.
With how long she's been alive, and it's just
you could do like
yeah,
a
you
whole
could do
series,
anything.
a whole series of show just on Andy's adventures. It's really, it's rife with all kinds of content that you could just dig into. I don't know. For me, those were the most interesting parts of the whole film.
Yeah, the stuff
But-
that you don't know, right? The stuff that's not part of the main plot of this
Yeah.
current movie is the most interesting part of the movie. The stuff that's to come, or where your imagination takes you when you find out certain
Right.
elements of the characters, like when they got found.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the elements of the film that I like the most, and I guess we'll try and keep this as general as we can.
Yeah, we'll hold back a bit. It's brand new. It's only been out a few days.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend it too. It's not a film that I wouldn't recommend. So if you got the time to catch it on Netflix, there's not a whole lot going on in theaters right now, brand new. So this is the new box office. So I think for me, the most interesting element of the broader story is this playing with the notions of life and death and immortality.
Okay.
And I think dealing with the subject matter of immortality, I like the way they handle it in this film, because it asks some very interesting questions about what does being immortal entail, and how does it affect you, or how does it affect a particular character that has those kind of qualities. And to be honest, I haven't seen a film that really takes that seriously. I mean, it's immortality, it doesn't exist. It's like it's fantasy.
Yeah.
But the way they deal with it, they really ground the characters in terms of how they handle their immortality, and it has a direct effect on the plot of the story.
Yeah, it kind of makes you see the both sides of having an ability like that. It's not like a
Right.
superpower by any means. It's just as much of a curse.
Right.
And I really liked how they really emphasized the human quality, right, of an inhuman character or an immortal character,
Yeah, and I
I
don't think
wouldn't say
it's
inhuman. That's the wrong word.
No, and it's definitely, I don't think, spoilerish to talk about this subject matter because it's in the trailers. But they do talk about a particular character's background, and I think I know who who I'm talking about, where they really hit home the idea that immortality isn't the most fun thing to happen to somebody. It's like you said, it's like a curse.
Yeah, and that's the character that has died the most, or that had found out his thing the most recently, which is still like 240 years or something, right? Or 210 years.
Yeah,
that's
something
how
like
if
that.
you slap the year 2020 on it, like he's been around
Right.
for like almost 208 years or something like that, which is
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And so for me, those are this film's an action film through and through, but if you can deal with fantasy topics and elements in that way that are really grounded, I think that's where the film becomes a little more substantive, and it gives you a little bit more to chew on rather than just be this fun fantasy film that's like a summer blockbuster.
Yeah,
Even though it is very much that.
it's almost like a little like hack into history.
Yes.
It's like you create this story that is, obviously not believable,
No.
but you're also like weaving it into you have the ability to take it into real history that people have reference of.
Yeah.
And you can insert this character at any point in time and be able to. It's kind of like a little, like a Slim Jim to get into ancient history via movies without having to try and remake one of the epic stories. And you can tell little stories in time periods in history with this type of character. I wonder if they're gonna spin this off into a Netflix show. Where they're hour-long episodes, because there's so much here with every single character.
Yeah, personally, if they did the sequel or a sequel and kept it in the modern day, I'd be a bit disappointed.
Me too.
I want them to kind of go back. I hate when stories go back in time. I kind of want them to keep it going and progress further into the future, but this is one of the stories where I do not want that.
Yeah.
I want them to go back as far as they can.
Well, I feel like this movie is like the table of contents.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
And you could spin off 10-episode seasons on Netflix, and you just film it like a show. And each character can get their own season, and you can set them at all different points in history. It's really
well. Let me ask you
really
this.
Cool, dude.
I think I already know the answer, but would you rather have 2 more sequels to this, or would you rather have a show?
I'd rather have a Netflix budget level show, Netflix budget level,
yeah,
rather
agreed.
than a next movie, because there's just so much depth to all of the characters and their backstories that you could give multiple episodes a season and flesh out this whole thing.
Yeah,
and milk that out for a few seasons, and then you can pick up where this movie leaves off.
Well, just between the main group, there's close to a millennia of history.
With Andy, it might be the little blurb I read. The true legend is 4,500 BC.
Oh, right.
That's
this
old.
Was coming from comic book backstory.
Oh, does it really? No. Just just a little Googling of kind of where the legends are born.
Oh, right. So she's based on a mythological character?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what the details of the comic book are, and that's probably
I've never read it myself.
Much more what it's tied to. But the way they present it in the movie, with the conspiracy theory board of all the history connections and stuff.
Yeah.
And then some of the artifacts that she has in her lair.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got that Greek helmet.
Mm-hmm.
That's, pretty damn old, could be 2,500 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
So, there's just so much they could dive into.
This film is almost like a giant tease.
Yeah, it's the biggest teaser ever. My mind still is just going in a million directions.
Yeah.
I hope they do something about this period in time, because they showed. Did you watch all the credits?
Yeah.
So, all of the, fake pictures from all the stuff, and then they did some really old stuff in
Those were
there,
really
too.
cool.
I liked all of that a lot.
Yeah.
So it presents so many different routes that you could take it. Not just her character though. Like I said, all the other characters.
No, for sure. Let me ask you, was there a particular part of the story, so disregarding all of the historical background and stuff, which we love.
Okay, yeah,
obviously.
yeah, I know we're just gushing over it, and it's not even that huge of a chunk of the movie.
Yeah, what, maybe 15 minutes at the most?
Yeah,
if that.
Yeah,
I know you could tell what we're into. It's what elements of the modern day story worked for you? I guess I'll start off by saying that for me, I really liked the event in the beginning that ends up turning out how you do not expect it to turn out, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a particular shot in there
when they raid
amazing.
the place in Sudan? Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
It's quite an introduction.
It is, and I was timing it just to see, and the whole plot gets going under 10 minutes, which is very
nice and quick.
Nice and quick. In film class, there's supposedly there's a formula of you have to get the plot going by the first 15 minutes, and in some films you can time it at the 15-minute mark, and that's where the key element of the plot takes off.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think it's been done for Star Wars and all kinds of different films. This one was a little bit sooner, but it's I don't know. It gets going really, really quickly, and I enjoyed that. What about you?
Yeah, I liked. A lot of the plot worked for me,
Yeah.
and I was like pretty invested and into it right away because you get some pretty awesome action stuff
Yeah.
in the beginning. I just felt like it was a little on the nose towards the middle of the movie
Uh-huh.
when you find out when Niles' true purpose of her being in the story gets revealed.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, oh, that's a little on the nose,
Okay.
That's my only drawback.
And I would say too that some of the elements of the film, the story plot elements, are somewhat timely.
Yeah.
Like Big Pharma, I'd say.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
That's I found that pretty interesting.
He's the Shkreli character, right? Isn't that
Yes.
pharma boy that is in jail?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
that
the world's
guy.
most hated man at the time. So I thought that was pretty timely, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. In terms of a villainous character, bad versus evil, it was a little bit boring, even though I'm kind of skipping ahead a bit. But I liked the overall aspect of bringing in Big Pharma.
Yeah, it kind of had it. Now that I didn't know. Okay, so I didn't know it was a comic book when I watched it this morning, and we
Okay.
just found out it when we were sitting down here to record, and it totally makes sense now.
Yeah.
How on the nose, like the villain is, and
Yeah.
the whole plot. It is. It has a very.
It has
It
like
makes
a
a
comic
lot
book
more
feel to it.
more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I should back off a little bit on my judgment because I didn't even know it was a comic book.
Well, here's the thing, too. So I listened to a bit of an interview with Greg Rucka that Kevin Smith did on his podcast, Fat Man Beyond. And he talks about him and Mark Bernardin just talk pop culture news, comic books, comic book movies. So they interviewed Greg Rucka, and he was saying that he was developing the story, and he purposefully tried to go away from the hard comic adaptation and write something that worked a little bit more for film.
Mm.
And he had a script, and he thought it was really great. And then he presents it to the director, Gina Prince Bythewood, and she's apparently read all of his graphic novels before going into this meeting. And she's like going through the book, and she's like, this isn't in your script. Why? And this part isn't in your story. Why? So it's like, okay. So at the end of the day, she ended up keeping a lot of the graphic novel elements because she really identified with a lot of those things. So he would rework it, and he finally got the working script. And I think into shooting, he was rewriting the script. And he was talking about one moment where on the left he had like Gina Prince, and then on the right, or what did you say? On the right he had Gina Prince, left he had Charlize Theron on his shoulders as he's rewriting lines and going like, does this work? Does this work for you? And he was saying that it could be a nightmare for any writer, but for him it was great because he had real-time feedback.
Yeah.
And so to do that, I don't know how you're able to manage that and come out with something as coherent as what they had. Even though it's not perfect, it shows you how good of a writer Greg Rucka is and how well him and Gina Prince Bythewood work together. So I hope they continue to collaborate.
It just feels like very by the book in terms of how everything is constructed and the progression and the arc of this current movie storyline.
Like very structured.
Very structured, very like in the right order.
Yeah.
Following rules, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's fine. It doesn't mean it's bad.
And here's the
But
thing,
there's
too.
not
I
a
think
lot of shock factor to where the story's going. Like, basically, once you figure out what they are, you know where it's going pretty well.
Right. The purpose of a film like this as a first installment, it's always difficult to achieve really high marks because in essence, it's the origin story for this broader universe. And those are always the hardest to establish. And I think what they gave us was good enough, at least for me. Like, it satisfied me enough, and it definitely got me excited for more to come, hopefully.
Yeah, me too.
So on that level, I think it succeeds.
Yeah, whatever it is, I will watch the next one.
Yeah, same
whether
here.
it's another movie or it's my vote. Spin it off into like 10 episode seasons, hour-long episodes.
Yeah, I think.
I mean,
Could you imagine
that'd be
if
great.
they turned this into an HBO show?
Well, it's Netflix. Netflix does great content too, man. Like
Yeah.
this movie's great. Extraction was great, and like the shows on Netflix are really good too. The ones that are 10 episodes, an hour long.
Is Ozark a Netflix show?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's super
All
good.
right.
There's been other really good ones too, but sometimes they get canceled.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that's
Netflix-
where I'd like to see them take this.
Yeah, for sure. I would almost hope that they decide to go into a TV series direction, but I think their numbers have looked pretty good the last few days in terms of the stream numbers for watching this film.
Yeah,
So I think for sure they're going to continue on the film route, but I'm hoping if it's like a trilogy, they just do a bunch of spin-off shows because it's so much you can do.
yeah.
That's all we've been saying this whole time.
The potential of the universe is better than the current movie, but the current
Yeah.
movie is still sweet. But what it does to your imagination makes you really excited for what's going to come from it. At least that's how I feel about it.
For sure. And then I do want to ask, did you connect with the ending at all? Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it because it's doesn't leave anything to the imagination.
Yeah, it's the ultimate tease, right?
Yeah. And I like that. But it did make me a bit it's going to sound really weird because don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
But like the way the movie ends, the very last scene, it kind of scared me a little bit that what I hope to where it goes isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
That they're going to stay in the present and not go back in time.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, at least spend a lot more time on flashbacks in the sequel because they kind of ended it where it's like, oh, it's probably going to have to come back
Yeah.
at this point in time.
And I was looking at a few screenshots of the graphic novel, and all the ones that I saw involved the modern day, the present time. So I was kind of bummed out about that. But we'll see. There's just so much, though. I felt like they only barely skimmed the surface of the background of the history.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it's intentional because they have so much more to tell. We'll see.
We'll see.
Let's talk a bit about the group.
Okay.
Like the main... And what's funny is, so the title's called The Old Guard. I don't think they ever once refer to themselves as that. Do they?
I don't think so.
Or even guards in general. Like, I don't think they view themselves as that.
No, now that you say that, I don't remember hearing it.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else said it at some point.
Maybe. They're almost like
Maybe Copley did at some point. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Copley definitely has the, like, Nick Fury role in this film with the Avengers. So let's talk about Charlize Theron's character a little bit.
Well, this is our July hot chick kicking ass.
I think so. I think you could safely say that.
Yeah, and she is definitely hot, and she is the queen of kicking ass right now.
Yeah. So we won't go, like, into backstory, not specifically, but we'll give you her name at least. Andromache of Scythia?
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah.
And she's like the leader of the group. She's like the matriarch. And she's been around the longest. And I love how Charlize has become this badass. She's developing this reputation as a complete badass.
Yeah, that's a lot of movies where she's fucking shit up.
Yeah, and I put a video link on the article for this film, and it's all about her stunt work and the stunts of the film, and she just talks about how she loves doing it. She's totally into the action and physical choreography, which is so cool to hear.
I still
Let's
maintain
get that,
they got
atomic...
that Atomic Blonde John Wick crossover, dude.
Let's get it.
We need that.
Oh, man. Please.
But did you notice, I loved her character, man. There's nothing not to love. She's like so stern and sensitive at the same time and totally badass and kind of jaded.
Yeah. And you always get the sense that she wants to do whatever's best for her family, essentially, which this group is. They spend so much time together.
Oh yeah, lots of time.
For sure.
Did you notice how, like, when she fought with more ancient implements, how different a vibe it had? I liked it a lot.
Like her fighting style?
Yeah. I liked
Yeah.
it way more than the guns.
Well, what's so cool about it is they still walk around carrying some of their ancient weapons.
Yeah.
Like, they're holding their, assault rifles or whatever, and then they have their, like, battle axe on their backs or their swords and the scabbard on their hip.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's the potential of how cool it could be.
Yeah, for sure. The potential. I think we can't understate that. It's oh man.
But Charlize is great, man. I'll watch anything she's in. She's awesome, and she kicks ass in this movie. There's a couple of scenes that were like slightly reminiscent of Atomic Blonde. Like,
yeah.
When she kicks some ass in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the music playing real loud.
Yeah.
I was hoping for like a 15-minute slugfest like Atomic Blonde, but the action scenes they're not nearly as long as we've come accustomed to in the last few big action movies we've done.
Yeah, and I think the difference between this film, the action in this film, as opposed to Atomic Blonde, well, I guess you can't say that completely, but I felt like in Atomic Blonde she got her ass kicked a lot more. In this one, I felt like she was a little more dominant in the fights, which is fine, but I mean...
She should be.
Yeah. Exactly, but without avoiding spoilers, it's there are a few moments where she gets hers.
Yeah.
For a brief second or two.
There's some really startling elements to the action, though, for the main characters, I'll say.
Yeah.
They do take a walloping.
Yeah, you're talking about the beginning.
I'm talking about the whole movie, man. It's like in every action scene.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Her whole guard, all the old guard, man, they get fucked up.
Yeah. I guess take a beating's a way to put it.
Besides Charlize, who'd you connect with?
I actually really enjoyed all of them. I think my two favorites, to be honest, are Joe and Nikki.
All right.
And they have like a relationship. They've been together since... oh, man. I don't even want to say. I can't say it.
Yeah,
but they've been together for a while. Yeah. And I just like their banter. Like, I like their banter. I like their dynamic. And they kind of bring the lighthearted joke aspect to the group. They're like the jokesters of the group, I'd say.
Yeah, and the point in history that they reference when they become part of the old guard has like a political message, and their relationship has a political message, and all of it's like sweet.
Yeah.
And they're badass, and I'd love to see their origin stories.
Yeah. There's
that's like a whole 10 episode season right there, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Like every one of these characters can have a total TV show of like 5 seasons. I can't remember who says it, if it's Joe or Nikki, but there's a line that's said in the back of a certain vehicle, and that was really powerful. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like, damn,
intense.
that was some A-class writing on that line.
Joe's played by Marwan Kenzari, and Nikki is played by Luca Marinelli.
Yeah.
I really connected with Booker a little bit because he's like the more greenhorn.
For sure.
He's second in line on the greenhorn.
Mm-hmm. And he's a lot more hardened, I think, than everyone else.
Matthias Schoenaerts.
Yeah.
He had some deep lines in the movie, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of appreciate about all their characters is like they were speaking in like these kind of historical wisdom metaphors.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And he has like a grittiness to him that I think grounds a lot of what's going on between the group. And then another character we have to mention, of course, is Niall.
Yeah.
Played by Kiki Lane. And for me, she was like the heart of the whole film.
Yeah,
she kind of
she's
comes
the cog,
in,
you know?
Yeah, she brings the heart, and she kind of breaks down the armor a bit of the old guard, we could say.
How on the
And-
nose is that?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I liked her character a lot, man, especially how she gets introduced.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
No, yeah, I wasn't expecting that, really. The other thing I like about the group overall, too, is they weren't afraid to just dive in and be like, oh, you look good. And they drop, some kind of back history little nugget that we have no idea about, and things are just picked up immediately, and you get the sense that they totally know each other, and they're like this family unit. And you don't have to, they didn't really take the time to have to explain every little detail about what happened during this fight or what happened here or there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I really enjoy that. Star Wars does a lot of that, where they kind of just thrust you into the world and don't go into detail of explaining it, and they're just like, hold on for the ride. And this film does that quite a bit.
Yeah, it does that in a really cool way because the points in time that they're referencing, you have, or some have knowledge of. They're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then you do the math, and you're like, oh, shit. That's super cool. And it just, and your mind just takes off. It's like, oh, dude, it's like, and then in the main movie, they're just going on with their present day mission.
Yeah.
And my mind wandered a lot on thinking of the characters and then back to their periods in history.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this throughout the whole film. Would it be possible to stay under the radar for as long as they have? Do you think that's feasible? Like the way
they address
do
it.
it?
They address it kind of.
Yeah, a bit.
I mean, that one part of the movie where Charlize helps those tourists take a picture of them because they snapped her. She's totally aware of it.
Yeah.
But they can't stay completely hidden.
No.
Which is really cool, and I loved all that, man. I loved all the old news clippings and.
Yeah, the news clippings totally reminded me of Wonder Woman. It's a very Wonder Woman-esque.
Okay, I don't know anything about the whole Wonder Woman world.
We're eventually going to do that, too. That's going to be a film.
I don't know anything
Woman
about
kicking
it.
ass. Gal Gadot kicking ass.
Sweet.
We're going to do that at some point. So, yeah, there was a bit of a connection there that I had. Were there any other characters that you enjoyed in the film?
I enjoyed Merrick. Harry
like
Melling
so-
is his name.
Yeah,
He's like
so sleazy.
So sleazy, dude. I enjoyed him. Like I said, he's a really on the nose comic book type villain now, and I
Yeah,
see it
for
now.
sure.
And when I watched the movie the first time, I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
But he has like a very Spider-Man villain type of feel.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He comes from Harry Potter. He plays a character in Harry Potter.
Okay, I haven't seen any of those.
And he plays kind of a dick in that movie, too.
He's a total
unfortunately-
dick in this movie.
Unfortunately,
and
he's a typecast dick.
It's good. He's good in this.
But yeah, he totally owns the Big Pharma CEO douchebag. And you definitely buy it. Was there any other... There was a moment... I will say this. It's a bit of a criticism, and I think it has to do more with the writing as opposed to the direction, but I felt that Niall comes into the group, and she's the newbie, she's the new kid on the block, and I will say there was a point where her character turns.
Quickly.
And that's as far as I go, and it is very quick, and I think it's a little too quick where I just didn't completely buy into it.
Yeah.
I felt like she didn't earn her spot in the group.
Yeah, I get what you're coming at there. I kind of feel the same way about the whole progression of when shit kind of hits the fan.
Yeah.
After the church scene, essentially. From then on out, it became like quite predictable,
Yeah.
except for maybe the very last scene.
Yeah.
But even that was like not too out of left field. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It was like her turn was really, really quick, and the escalation of the plot seemed to have like really fallen into the tracks of just like the action movie arc really bad at the end,
Yeah, and not just her character either, but Chiwetel Ejiofor's character, Copley, he has a bit of a turn moment as well.
Yeah,
And kind of the same deal.
which is quick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
like
know
he was
they
okay
drop
with
a
all
bit of knowledge.
all kinds of bad shit happening to Joe and Nikki,
Yeah.
and then at one point, it goes a little bit too far.
Yeah. And they do plant the seed a bit in the very beginning when you're introduced to his character to set you up for it. But even still, I felt like the payoff wasn't there for me. It wasn't earned. And like I said, these films, the establishing films in a franchise or any series are very hard to do. And a lot of times they're like the weakest link. But I mean, Marvel's been doing it for a while and they've been killing it. So like I said, it didn't blow me away, but it was effective enough where it works and gets me excited for more to come.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. This movie by itself, it's not bad, but it's just like nothing really catches you off guard in terms of the present story. But what it does to your imagination bumps it up a little bit because you can get real excited about where they can take it.
Right, and I like that you said it's kind of like a formula. It's formulaic, this film. And which is fine because, like I said, you and I are both excited for more. And I think what keeps you interested is the subject matter and the richness of the story. Yeah. So it's, like we said, it's fine with lots of potential.
It's like looking at a really awesome cheeseburger in a picture.
Yeah.
And then comparing how you felt looking at it to how you feel after smashing the whole thing. Maybe a little bit like that. Still good, like but you maybe shouldn't have smashed the whole cheeseburger.
Yeah. And then you're still kind of hungry, wanting a better cheeseburger.
Well, you shouldn't.
You're hoping to find.
Yeah, that you start looking at pictures again, and then you're like, oh yeah, I love that cheeseburger.
Yeah, they can take this cheeseburger in so many different directions.
So many different toppings.
Yeah, so many toppings. It's the cheeseburger with the potential. That's what this film is. Thank you for listening to the Buff of the Laser podcast.
We'll be here all week.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into some of the cinematic elements of the film.
Okay.
I will say that if you would have told me that this was one of Gina Prince Bythewood's first action features, or is her first action feature, I would have said you were nuts. Because I wouldn't expect someone whose first, I'd say, film of note, which is Love and Basketball, could handle a film like this. Okay. And I thought she came across as completely comfortable in the genre. Like the way she shot action. Well, maybe it's not on the same level as films like John Wick or an Atomic Blonde.
But it's also not as big a part of the story as those others, right?
No.
Because there's so much more depth in this story than there is just kicking ass.
Well, and like we said, too, I think this film is more about character than it is about action, like you say. Yeah. And that's what she does so well, is character.
But the action's not bad, but it's just not kind of, like you said, it's not in the same vein. It's not 10-minute fight scenes. Right. That are heavily, like, there's still a lot of choreography going on, but it's the action scenes are just a bit quicker and less detailed, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though like there's some badass judo, she does some badass like judo type stuff, like dropping dudes, and it's just not as intense, I guess, as some of the films we've done recently.
Yeah, and it's not completely on her either. Like half of the action stuff that you see in films is editing too. And so that falls on the editor and the stunt choreographer, all kind of coming together.
There's a pretty good suplex in this. Similar to the suplex in Extraction.
I saw it.
And this one looks a little better. That one looked a little more like a dummy, I'll say that.
Yeah, this one looks brutal. I was like, oh. Yeah, immediately I was like, Extraction. Which is really cool. And I will say, I'm so excited for her. I hope she does, if they're doing the sequel or a trilogy, I hope she stays on the entire time. Because I guarantee you there's stuff she learned on this film that will help her on the next one.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of like lean into maybe taking it the route of a show, because you can you can have the kind of freedom to have a 2 episodes where there's no fighting at all, just all context, and then you
Yeah.
can have like super battles that are like 3 episodes long. Like
Yeah.
sieges and things like that. Like there's just so many ways you can go with it, with all
and
the
the other thing,
characters.
too, like you said, the historical scenes,
Yeah.
the old battles. She did a great job with those too.
Yeah, that one.
Those were some of my favorite
flashback-
pieces.
Yeah, me too. When they flash back to that one, and it looks like she's fighting maybe like early Arab expansion in the 7th century, 8th century, or something. And
Yeah.
they're all riding horses, and they got the dude. I was like so pumped up, and then it's only like a couple of maybe 45-second flashback or something, right? Not even that long.
Yeah, Andy blinks her eye and it's over.
It's just like, no, give me some context to the flashback. I want to know what year it was. I want to know.
I know.
Where they were on the map.
Yeah. Oh man. I don't
Maybe
know if you
everybody
wanna-
doesn't want that much detail. I don't know.
I know. I want you to write a historical action film.
Yeah, right.
Oh man.
I ain't got no free time to do that. But I really enjoyed how everything was shot. There were some really pretty desert shots.
Yo, yeah.
I liked the Afghanistan action.
I loved all the location stuff.
Yeah.
Anytime they shoot outside, I love it.
And there was some really, really good, realistic special effects from a gore
Oh yeah,
perspective.
for sure.
Don't know if we could talk about those too much without giving a bunch away.
No, but there was
but-
one in particular that had a very Saving Private Ryan vibe to it.
There's
And
some
you know
pretty
exactly
gore.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's some pretty gory action in this movie, which I liked. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed all that part of it. Did you notice that the color palette changed quite frequently throughout the movie? There was like a really, lots of light colors for like the first half of the movie, and then it got really dark for a
I
good
think I know
chunk
what you're
of the
talking
movie,
about.
and then it was quite light again later
think
in the
that's-
movie.
yeah.
I'm
I
talking
think I
like
know what
the
you're talking
colors
about.
of buildings, the colors of landscapes. It had
Yeah.
like a very transitional type thing, like moving
Yeah.
with Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 kind of thing.
Yeah, like I know for sure there's a different color palette going on with all of the desert action.
Yeah,
And partly I think that's just because it's really hard to shoot in those conditions anyways. And then once you get into the more urban areas, you can play with the contrast and color a little bit more. But I guess I did get a little bit of that going on. And I will say too, my favorite shot in the whole film happens really early on at night.
I'm racking my brain. Can you give me a couple more clues?
It involves some night vision.
Oh, all right.
And some death.
There's a lot of death in the movie.
Yeah, a lot of death for a bunch of immortal characters.
My favorite, I guess, sequence of the movie was in the building at the end of the movie.
Oh,
I really
okay.
liked all that in the big pharma building in downtown London or wherever they were.
Yeah.
I really liked that, and I loved how that all ended. Like it was
yeah.
sweet. That was probably
So-
my favorite part of the movie. I like jumped up and was like, "Yeah!" When like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. A funny little tidbit is apparently that whole building, that penthouse, belongs to some wealthy Russian oligarch
In real life.
in real life. At least that's what Greg Rucka says in his interview. So that's kind of interesting. So I thought, I mean, it looked like it might have been all digital and maybe just interior set. But I don't know if they used the exterior shots only for the building. But yeah, apparently that penthouse is real,
Cool.
which I thought was pretty
That was
cool.
that was like my favorite whole sequence.
Yeah.
Because it had been dark for quite a while before that, so I was watching it in the daytime,
Okay.
and it's all light. It's the middle of summer, so when the dark parts of the movie I couldn't see as well
Yeah.
because I just couldn't get my house dark at all, you know. So maybe that's why I noticed it, that the kind of tint changed throughout the movie.
Yeah, maybe. And I know it happens too, so it could have been intentional. I'm
Who
not
knows?
sure. You reminded me of something I noticed watching it during the end sequence. After a certain elevation change.
There we go. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, after a certain elevation change, there was just a kind of a lack of traffic.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, a bunch of traffic.
But that's, that plays into the mystique, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, all right. Apparently everyone was on lunch break because they do that in London.
Yeah, nobody noticed all of the,
Yeah.
rifles
time?
and AKs going off for the 30 minutes preceding.
Yeah, but then I immediately have to forgive them because of every Batman and superhero film ever made.
Yeah, well, that's where the comic part comes in. Like, now that I know it's a comic, I can forgive all that shit easily.
Yeah, for sure. Good point. I would really like to know what their budget was on this film because I thought all the CG and special effects, they were fine.
Oh,
There wasn't anything that completely repulsed me.
Yeah, I mean, it's Netflix. I'm sure the budget was huge, and it has that feel.
Yeah, for sure.
Even for as unrealistic as a lot of the things that happen in the movie are, you don't come across as being like, oh, that's not even close to making it look real, When you're trying to make someone believe something that's not possible, they did a good job of making it look believable.
Let me ask you this before we move into a bit of score here. Do you think that this film would have had the same traction or buzz around it if it had been a theatrical release
I don't
as
know,
opposed to a
man.
Netflix streaming?
Who knows, man? We've been in the house for 4 months,
Yeah.
and who knows what's going to get traction.
Yeah. I'd say
I don't know if this movie, I don't know if it's, meant to be like a super. I think it would have done fine in theaters. I don't want to think it would have been crazy, but I think with it being on Netflix, it's like rolling out the giant carpet of potential.
Yeah.
To take it, and as that kind of story, I think it does exactly what it's supposed to, regardless of how hyped or what kind of numbers it does. Because you need to develop a core fan base that wants more, and that's what this movie I think does really well.
I will say, I think for me, this film came out at the right time on the right platform.
Okay.
Because I think we're in a moment where people are hungry for big films because they're just not coming out. And for that reason, this being released on Netflix, I think it works on so many different levels. And I think they're really lucky to have been like a straight to digital release on Netflix streaming. And I think it's going to help them. Yeah,
I think it's going to get the green light to proceed quickly, I'm sure, if it hasn't already.
Yeah, no, usually when a film is successful, you'll find out either the next day or the next couple days that a sequel's been greenlit already. So I would not be surprised if we woke up tomorrow and saw that headline.
That was on the deal on Extraction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
A few days after it came out, they were like, bam, number 2 is in the works.
And I would expect the same from this. At least from what I've been hearing, this film has done really well the past 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, and for all the complaining I've done, I did enjoy it. And I just enjoyed where it took me more than what this film was,
Yeah. It's like being on a bus, and then you drive by something really cool, and you're like, wait, stop. And it just keeps going. So then you're waiting to get back on the bus to go back.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
While you're eating your cheeseburger.
Yeah, or it's like a great burger place, and the first one you have is pretty good, but they have a crazy menu, and you want to try all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It was a sampler platter. That's what it was.
Yeah. It's the first meal you had at a restaurant that you'll be coming back to for the rest of your life.
Well, they could literally tell stories for the rest of our lives.
Yes. Yeah. So much potential.
They're like sitting on a gold mine. All right, let's talk about another aspect of the film that didn't so much work for me.
Okay.
Which was the score. So, I get it. Like, there's some really cool action set pieces here, and like they're playing up kind of a music video vibe, which is kind of what they did for Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
But I felt like it worked more for Atomic Blonde because it was a
Yeah.
period piece.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, and for this one, it just felt a little bit out of place for me.
I didn't hate all of it, but there were
No.
some points where I was like, it was a little much.
It was kind of cheesy.
It didn't land great.
Yeah.
But like the church scene, then the music's playing. I don't know what the song is or whatever, but it was okay. I liked it a lot. You know, that part of the movie I liked a lot, but a lot of the other stuff I wasn't that into.
Yeah, it's less of a critique about the music itself and more about placing it in certain sequences. I don't know. It's not my cup of tea when it comes to putting in new popular music into a narrative story, unless it has a direct link to what they're trying to do, like Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, it was fine. It didn't ruin my experience or anything.
No, it didn't ruin it, but there was a couple of times where it was like I don't
I think in
love
the
that.
beginning, right? I don't know if it's the title sequence or what, but you get a song from the very beginning, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's gonna be one of those, which is fine, but not my cup of tea.
All right, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. It didn't bother me. It didn't like make the ruin anything for me, but there was a couple of points where I was like, a little much.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's get into some love hates.
All right.
I'll let you go.
I love Charlize, man. She's awesome. I want to see as many
She's
action
all right.
movies as she does forever. She's great. And I really loved where the movie sent my mind for potential, man. And I also hate that. That's also my hate, because I'm going to dream up all of these awesome things that I want to see with these characters and these storylines, and I don't think I'm going to get much of it at all.
Yeah, and then they'll completely disappoint you with the sequel. Yeah, gear yourself up. Brace for impact.
Yeah, that's my that's my love hates. I hate that I think I know where it's going to go, and I doubt it's probably not going to, but where I want it to go isn't going to happen.
Yeah, all right, that's totally fair.
But it
and
could,
I have to agree.
and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
There's always hope. I loved that Gina Prince Bythewood got into this genre. I love it whenever you can take a director out of their, I guess, pigeonholed element, which for her is like romance, and put them in something completely different. And I will acknowledge she's done TV shows that have an action element to them.
Yeah.
But I love it. Like Christopher Nolan was a director that did a bunch of indie, kind of dark noir films, and then they put him on the Batman franchise, and he created one of the best Batman stories ever. And so anytime that happens, you find that these directors are just so versatile. So I was really happy to see her on a film like this. And like you, Charlize, give me Charlize every year in a film like this.
I'll see every single one.
She's like, what is she, in her 40s? And she's just now coming into like the action scene, and she loves it.
I don't know.
And
I
it
mean,
shows.
When was Mad Max?
Fury Road.
Yeah.
It was like, what, 2017, 2016?
And Atomic Blonde was 2017.
Yeah. I just love that she's gaining this reputation as like an action hero, which is awesome because we already know how good of an actress she is. So like you, I love that.
I think this movie kind of does the same thing as Atomic Blonde in terms of like her character, and you just want more of it really bad, because her character in the Old Guard is so interesting, and so you could tell you could make 50 movies with just her character.
Well, here's the
and
interesting
they would
thing.
all be interesting.
I think I sent you an article like a couple months back with the supposed Atomic Blonde sequel.
Yeah.
And do you remember the studio attached to that?
No.
Supposedly?
No.
Netflix.
Oh, sweet.
So
get on that Charlize train, Netflix, and just
yeah,
banging
So
out all these awesome fucking action movies.
I'm hoping there's some kind of rapport there where they're like, all right, let's sit down and talk about
That
Atomic
seems to
Blonde.
be how it goes, man. Most of the comics that are on Netflix are like staying.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the old syndicate TV shows are going
Yeah.
to Netflix. Well, there's like massive bidding wars, but yeah, it's like Netflix is a huge player. Make some iconic old guard series, you know.
Yeah.
Every year there's a new 10 episodes, and they're in different centuries throughout all history. Like there's so much goddamn potential.
That hamburger's so juicy.
It speaks. So I'm like not really into comic book and modern superhero stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm super into history, and I'm totally willing to like accept the unbelievability just to get somebody to try and tell those stories, those
Yeah.
older stories, you know.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mash between the best of both worlds. Like,
It even
we
made
both
me
love history.
think, like I'd never really read fiction or anything, you know.
Uh-huh.
And it made me even think like, oh, I bet there's a really cool world of like historical fiction that would probably enjoy a lot, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because this movie kind of opened my eyes to like, oh, it's kind of like that shitty ass movie Legion. I was all excited. And it's like, think about how much cooler of a Roman story you could tell with this backdrop, with these characters, you know?
I think the 12 minutes of history we got in this film overshadowed that entire movie.
Yeah, so I hope it happens. I hope it happens the way I want it to, but I doubt it.
We'll see. We'll see. There's still hope for that hamburger. It's coming. Well, what are you going to give this film? Where does it rank on your meter?
So I'm going to give it 3.5.
Okay.
3.5 bong loads because it's the movie itself is good and the arc is fine, but it's just fairly predictable.
Yeah.
I would give it like a 3, but I'm giving it the other half for like the potential of where it can go, and I'm totally on board with whatever else they do with it.
Sure. And I think more importantly, do you recommend it or not?
Yeah. If you're in, absolutely. Charlize is in it. Watch it. You'll have a good time.
Cool. I'm also going to give it in the 3 range. I'll give it a little bit higher. I'll go 3.75 buckets of popcorn.
All right.
Like I said, it's not the most solid of stories in terms of some of the character development, but at the same time, it gives you so much and it's so rich that you're going to get something out of it, and it's going to definitely leave you wanting more. That's like the biggest takeaway from this. So if this was their advertisement for selling this universe, I think they hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I definitely want more of this. Hopefully we get more of it, and news of it maybe tomorrow. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's another great action film under Charlize's belt for sure, and a nice entry into the genre for Gina Prince Bythewood.
I want to go check out the comics. I think I'm going to look into it a little bit and see if there's any of the comics that go back in history a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, actually. That's something to do. And I think you can get him digitally.
Sweet. We got time.
For sure. So yeah, anything else on your mind?
No,
with
that's
the old
it,
guard?
man. I'm excited for where it can go.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I enjoyed this one.
And like you, I highly recommend this film. So there's a lot of subscribers on Netflix, so if you're one of them, give it a watch. It's I think it's worth your time, and you'll get some kind of enjoyment out of it for sure.
Yeah.
And then we can all talk about hamburgers and cheeseburgers together, which is always fun.
Well, no, we need to start like a poll, like a little mini writing competition.
Oh.
For the people that do like the show, and just be like, where do you want it to go? You get 1,000 characters.
Backstory competition.
Yeah, pitch either a movie or a hour episode of one of the characters and their backstory at any period in time.
Get on that fan fiction.
Yeah, somebody get on there. There's got to be forums and things like that where people would do it. I'm not doing it.
For sure. And watch it all be in the graphic novels, too. Which would be nice. Alrighty, well, I think we're out of time. But well, thanks, everyone, for hanging with us once again. We hope you enjoyed this twofer this weekend. And as these films become more timely, we'll try and do a little bit more of this. There's a couple coming out this month that I think are worth getting on pretty quickly, but we'll keep you posted as always. But you can always find us. We're on all the platforms. You know where we'll be. But thanks for hanging with us on episode 30 of The Buff and the Blazer. I'm Drew with El Toddo, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Peace.